I felt for a long time that in some ways pro wrestling saved my life. I was never a fan of pro wrestling. I didn't start watching pro wrestling until I think 2009. At that point, I was 33, 34 years old. I was going through a lot of really difficult times in my personal life, and somehow, while kind of scrolling through the channels or flicking through the channels at that time, I landed on an episode of Monday Night Raw. It just kind of drew me in. I started watching, and as things in my life continued to spiral downward, I started paying more and more attention to pro wrestling. And I got online and I found not only Ring of Honor, but I found PWG, and I just found the indies, and I started using drugs and kind of lost everything that was important to me. And the only thing that kind of kept me connected to the rest of the world was pro wrestling. And I slowly got myself back together, rebuilt my life. I'm doing great and have been for several years. I'm a chemical dependency counselor now. I have 2 kids. Part of it's because I'm a pro wrestling fan and because I had this one thing that kept me connected. It got me back into interacting with people in the rest of the world. I started going to shows. So to this day, not only am I a huge fan, but I feel extremely loyal to professional wrestling for what it did for me, especially during some of the darkest times in my life.
Yeah, I know how important wrestling is to me. I know how important wrestling is probably to everybody listening to this. And it's important to different reasons for everybody. So to hear a story like this, where she's losing everything, and maybe it's not something that I can necessarily relate to in terms of drugs and misuse of drugs, but I do know that wrestling has been there for me in some dark times, even when wrestling was the reason for dark times, which is pretty crazy to admit or even hear myself say, but I can kind of separate the wrestling into different categories. And that's the theme of the show. That's the theme of everything, is that wrestling is here for us. It's a constant in our lives. And I'm so glad that this is something that you hung on to bring you upwards and onwards and move forward in such a great and positive way. I'm so happy that you found your way. You're continuing to find your way. I know it's work and it's hard every single day, but I'm grateful that me and the rest of my job and the community and everything, we can all be there for you, because I'm sure it's a struggle. I know it's a struggle, but I don't think this thing's going away. So we'll be here for a while. Hey, thanks for watching. That call was part of a whole podcast called Wrestling Anonymous. Listen to the whole thing weekly wherever you listen to your podcasts. Go subscribe. And while you're at it, subscribe right here on YouTube to Colt Cabana's channel. Thank you.